The AFC South, where dreams go to die, or the Strouds get you first, whatever happens. Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packers, a podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. This is definitely a division, Grossi, and today we are going to be going through the AFC South, where last year we were talking about the AFC South as one of like the next big things, and also the Titans were there. Don't worry, it's better now, Titans fans. But you had the combination of C.J. Stroud emerging. Anthony Richardson was supposed to find his footing last year. Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. He was going to start getting things rolling. And ultimately, it did not turn out to be that at all. In fact, they had pretty terrible records. There was only one team with a winning record, and that was the Strouds. And so, heading into this season, things are a little bit different for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a QB battle between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. For the Strouds, they're trying to, survive on offense with the offensive line and also have someone that they can throw the ball to. Get well soon, Tank Dell. The Titans, they had the first overall draft pick, though you would never know because the media has never covered it. And the Jaguars, well, they have all the tools. It's just a matter of, are they going to build something beautiful like a home, or are they just going to put a nail in their own foot? Find out this time on the AFC South. Starting off with the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, so last year I had them with a 6-11 floor and a 10-7 ceiling, which I thought was pretty darn fair. They finished with an 8-9 record, which again, while it's in that window, ultimately was disappointing because there were times where I was like, ooh, the Colts are a fun team to watch. They have some pieces here. Jonathan Taylor, of course, Michael Pittman, 100%. And then things are just not going great. But that QB competition, yeah, that's going great.
There's only one spot open right now, so we're gonna have tryouts.
I don't know how Colts fans do it, man. I mean, this carousel is just the worst carnival ride in the history of the world. And listen, the Colts have not been able to find their franchise guy ever since they had their franchise guy in Andrew Luck. And since then, it has just been this turnstile of QBs who have come in. They're usually older, like a Matt Ryan or a Phillip Rivers. It never works out. Joe Flacco will hop in there for a hot second, but they need some stability there. Bringing in Daniel Jones, I don't think is the worst decision because they need somebody to snap footballs. Anthony Richardson, though, there needs to be ROI, right? There needs to be a return on investment at this point. And this might be the make or break season for him, which breaks my heart because I really want him to do well. It's just, I don't know if Indianapolis is going to be the place for that to happen. And taking a look at where they were last year on offense, they ranked 17th in points per game scored. They were the 8th best rushing unit in the NFL and 25th worst passing unit. So obviously some lopsided stuff there. Jonathan Taylor, them getting that contract worked out last year. Who could forget, the drama on the bus? But Jonathan Taylor, he's a guy worth paying, especially when he can put up some great numbers. And then taking a look at their defense, yikes, they definitely needed to fire their defensive coordinator, and now, hopefully, better things ahead. They ranked 24th in points per game allowed. They were the 24th worst rushing defense and 26th worst passing defense. So, not great, Bob. And so, a combination of just the defense not playing well, no stability at quarterback, and while they're running the ball pretty well, they need to do more than just that. And taking a look at their offseason, besides bringing in Daniel Jones, they got Ward, they got Bynum, they drafted Warren, who everybody and their mother expected, but should give another target to whoever the hell the quarterback is going to be, and they built the trenches and the secondary. And so ultimately, for the Colts, this really is just going to revolve around Anthony Richardson, because they're going to have to make a decision. Is this our guy that we are going to continue to invest in, or are we going to have to go find another quarterback? And taking a look at what this roster looks like this year on top of what their schedule is, it might not be the easiest of things. Taking a look at some of the games I think that they're going to struggle against, we'll see how the Dolphins are this year with their health, but the Broncos at home, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the 49ers, and then not even mentioning the Texans and Jaguars. I think these are all teams that could give them some headaches. Then looking at those away games, the Rams, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, these are not easy games, and it's really difficult to predict what the Colts are going to do this year. If they run the ball well and whoever is their quarterback is able to be above average, they can put together a pretty nice season. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a challenging one if Anthony Richardson is not the guy, because then you're with Daniel Jones, who you know his ceiling, it's not very high. It's good enough for beating the Vikings in the playoffs, though. So taking a look at their floor, because they are going up against some tougher teams and there's just so many question marks with the Colts, I have their floor pretty darn low at 5-12. While they did finish at 8-9 last year, I just don't know what this year is going to look like. Their defense has to get better. You think that it's going to be on the right track. So with a 5-12 floor, I'm going to give them a ceiling of 9-8. I think it's potential that they could win another game, but then I'm really starting to stretch it. Again, I just have too many questions about the quarterback position. I do think they'll have a good ground game, and we have to see if that defense is going to improve. If they have guys from the draft that can participate and make an impact day one, that is definitely going to go a long way. But as of right now, the Colts, for me, it's tough to put a ton of stock into them. Let's see if I'm wrong. Then, following that, you got the Tennessee Titans. The Titans. Yeah, last year I had them with a 5-12 floor with the Mayo Man and a 9-8 ceiling, and they went 3-14. They were the worst team in football with the #1 overall pick. But then again, you wouldn't know because Titans fans are desperate for the media just to mention them at this point.
I don't believe it. I'm on the cover of a magazine!
And it makes sense why they really weren't great last year. No stability at quarterback. Will Levis was making memes just about every single week of himself. And while I do hope that he gets well soon, they just didn't really find their identity besides having really bad special teams. And so ultimately, their offense, 27th in points per game scored, 20th rushing offense, and 26th passing offense. All of those need to improve. Looking at the defense, not any better. 30th in points per game allowed, 26th run defense, and 2nd pass defense. So while the passing defense numbers were definitely better, and I would say their secondary is not too bad, a lot of the times also is because the field was cut so short because their special teams were so bad, but, you know, you had to watch some Titans games, which if you did, I'm so sorry, Titans fans. And looking at their offseason, they brought in Xavier Woods. Dan Moore Jr. was the big move on the offensive line. We'll see if that's going to pay off, but that O-line had to get better. And they drafted edge and safety while, of course, drafting Cam Ward 1 overall. And I really hope that Cam Ward does well. While Treylon Burks just got released, you know, he wasn't making a huge difference on the team. That would just kind of was sad because of the whole A.J. Brown thing. But taking a look at the Titans' schedule, I don't think it's as difficult as the Colts. Taking a look at some of their home games, the Rams are going to be difficult. The Chargers, of course, are going to play the Texans and Jaguars as well. The Seahawks, the Chiefs, I see those as the toughest games. Then looking away, they got the 49ers, they got the Cardinals, and then the Broncos. And again, you still have the Texans, but the Broncos is a tough place to play. They're doing it week 1, and it's with a rookie quarterback against a very good defense. So that might cause some trouble. But ultimately, looking at where they could be, I have them at a 5-12 floor, and I have them at an 8-9 ceiling. If Cam Ward is good, then who cares about my predictions, because then you have your franchise quarterback. But there are a lot of things that have to improve about the Titans, and I don't know if this is all happening in 1 year. If you find your franchise QB, it makes these problems a lot less difficult. But that being said, I wish you nothing but the best, Titans fans. It might be a tough season, but hey, I hope you found your quarterback. Following that, you got the Houston Texans. The Texans, who were able to win the division last year. I predicted an 8-9 floor and a 12-5 ceiling, and they finished with a very respectable 10-7 record. Unfortunately for the Texans, of course, you've had injuries when it comes to wide receivers. Stephon Diggs is no longer on the team, though he wasn't helping a ton because he dealt with an injury. Tank Dell getting injured on Christmas was horrific to watch. And while they did lose some offensive linemen like Tunsil, who, regardless of what Texans fans will say, I know that there's penalty issues, he's getting older, he still was a pretty damn good left tackle. And you lost Kenyon Green, who I don't think anybody in Houston is missing right now. Taking a look at their offense last year, they were 19th in points per game scored, 15th best rushing team, 21st in passing yards. Defense, they were 14th in points per game allowed, 11th in run defense, and 6th in pass defense. I love that secondary so much. I am a huge fan of Stingley. And so ultimately, I think the Texans on the defensive side of the ball overall, they are looking pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy. The offense is where there's some questions. While they did bring in a pair of wide receivers, including Higgins in the draft, and also drafted offensive line, I think that there are rightfully still going to be some question marks, and we're going to see how that unit is going to be able to gel together. Different offensive coordinator will definitely help, and we'll see how CJ Stroud does in his third year, because the Strouds, they only have one goal.
What do you want?
In a word, chaos.
And they might get some chaos this year because their away schedule is not fun. But looking at home first, they got the Buccaneers, the 49ers, Broncos, Bills, and Cardinals that they're going to have to deal with. Some of those are going to be a little bit tougher than others. But their away schedule, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Ravens, and the Rams. So they don't have the easiest of schedules. It makes sense. They wound up winning their division last year. So all that being said, I have them having a floor if everything goes wrong at 8-9 and a ceiling of 11-6. I think there's a lot on CJ Stroud's plate right now besides offensive line. They have to deal with a new offensive coordinator, which I think ultimately will be a blessing. The good news is that they have a really good defense, and if they're able to have a good ground game, I know Joe Mixon's dealing with some stuff, but as long as they're able to have a good ground game to balance it out and CJ Stroud gets protection, I still think the Texans, this is their division to lose. The Strouds also made me say that or they'd blow up my car. And finally, tell me, Jaguars fans, because I don't know. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars. I had them at a 6-11 floor last year and a 10-7 ceiling, and they went 4-13. Now, some things I cannot blame them for. Trevor Lawrence getting hurt, dealing with a litany of injuries. That is not their fault. However, and unfortunately, it just feels like the Jaguars have stalled out ever since losing in that divisional round against the Chiefs. They have not been able to get back there, and ultimately, that's going to be a problem when you're paying Trevor Lawrence $55 million. Now, of course, the Jaguars, they took a big swing in this offseason, pairing Brian Thomas Jr. with now Travis Hunter.
Huh? Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool!
And they didn't stop there. They were very busy this offseason bringing in secondary help and offensive line help, which needed to get better. Taking a look at last year's stats, they were 26 in points per game scored. They were 26th in rushing offense and 24th in passing offense. The defense, it was not any better. They were 28th in points allowed per game, 25th in run defense, and 32nd dead last in passing defense. Yeah, big yikes. Not looking good at all. And so both sides of the ball, while dealing with injuries, were not at their best. And so now, heading in with a new regime now, a new head coach, Duval, you need to win some football games. With a healthy Trevor Lawrence, I think that is very possible. Taking a look at their schedule, they're going to have to go against some tough teams at home like the Chiefs, the Rams, the Chargers, and away they're going up against the Broncos, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Bengals. And so there are some teams in there that I think can give them some issues, but I just don't know who the hell the Jaguars are going to be this year. If Trevor Lawrence is healthy and Travis Hunter is great and Brian Thomas Jr. continues to be awesome, then they might have a really good year, and I think they could be a playoff team. Is their defense going to show up? Is their offense going to be able to hum along? Or are they going to have a run game? These are all very glaring questions. And so because of that, I'm a bit split on them. I have them with a floor of 7-10 and a ceiling of 10-7. And so while that's a good amount of games in between, I really think they could be hot or cold this year. It's just going to be a matter of how does Trevor Lawrence play? How does that defense play? And how long is it going to take for them to, emerge out of the growing pains that are going to be starting this season with some new players and a new head coach. But ultimately, I'm rooting for the Jaguars. I hope they find some success. We'll see if they can find it this season. And so if things pan out the way that I predict, I have the Texans finishing first, followed by the Jaguars, the Colts, and then the Titans. Am I confident in this? Absolutely not. But that's the AFC South. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.